Death of Queen Elizabeth I. The iconic monarch of the Elizabethan era became the epitome of beauty standards during the 16th century. Her pale and flawless complexion was revered as a symbol of nobility and perfection, setting the benchmark for feminine allure. However, this ideal of beauty came at a grave cost. Elizabeth's pursuit of perfection led her to the use of cosmetics containing toxic substances such as lead and mercury, which not only harmed her skin, but potentially contributed to her eventual demise. One of the most prominent cosmetics that she used was a makeup composed of lead and vinegar, which she applied to her face and neck, resulting in a ghostly appearance that became her signature look. Furthermore, Elizabeth adorned her lips with a stain, which was made from a mineral containing mercury, giving her the iconic red lips depicted in numerous portraits. Over time, the prolonged use of these toxic substances caused irreversible damage to her skin. The lead corroded her complexion, while mercury poisoning led to symptoms such as memory loss and depression. Despite being aware of the risks, Elizabeth persisted in wearing her makeup for extended periods of time, exacerbating the harm inflicted upon her skin. Even the process of removing her makeup posed further dangers, potentially exposing her to additional mercury. The tragic consequences of Elizabeth's pursuit of beauty are underscored by the accounts of individuals who praise the effectiveness of mercury-based makeup removers, unaware of the harm that they were causing. These removers, while leaving the skin feeling soft, were actually stripping away layers of tissue, causing significant damage. Additionally, Elizabeth's early years were marred by a battle with smallpox, which left her with permanent scars on her face. In a society where appearance was heavily scrutinized, Elizabeth went to great lengths to conceal her blemishes, fearing that they would diminish her stature as a ruler. Throughout her life, Elizabeth employed various strategies to maintain her image of youthful perfection. She prohibited unflattering portraits of herself and relied on skilled artists to depict her in a flawless manner, as evidenced by the famous Darnley portrait. However, the realities of aging proved inevitable, with Elizabeth resorting to wearing wigs to conceal her thinning hair. Despite her efforts, the Earl of Essex's revelation of her balding head in 1599 served as a stark reminder of the passage of time. In her final months, Elizabeth's health declined rapidly, yet she adamantly refused to rest, fearing it would signify her demise. Instead, she endured standing for long hours, supported by pillows strategically placed by her attendants. On the 24th of March 1603, Queen Elizabeth I passed away, with potential causes of death including cancer or pneumonia, exacerbated by years of exposure to toxic cosmetics. The aftermath of her death was marked by speculation and controversy, with accounts of her body allegedly bursting open in her coffin due to the buildup of noxious vapours. While the exact cause of Elizabeth's death remains uncertain, her tragic fate serves as a poignant reminder of the dangers inherent in the pursuit of beauty. The use of toxic cosmetics dates back centuries, with evidence from ancient civilizations like the Romans, yet their poisonous nature was not officially recognized until after Elizabeth's death. Despite advancements in understanding the risks associated with certain beauty practices, the quest for beauty at any cost persists to this day. The story of Queen Elizabeth I's beauty regime serves as a cautionary tale, highlighting the enduring legacy of pain and sacrifice in the name of beauty throughout human history. In a sequence of meticulously orchestrated events, the world witnessed the solemn passing of an era as the news of Queen Elizabeth II's death reverberated across continents. The plans laid out for this sombre occasion were executed with precision, as dignitaries, family members, and officials were informed in a carefully choreographed sequence. Amidst the backdrop of Buckingham Palace and Balmoral Castle, the unfolding of these moments painted a poignant picture of a nation and a monarchy in transition. As the clock ticked away on the September the 8th, a historic and poignant series of actions and announcements brought the curtain down on a remarkable reign, ushering in a new chapter in the annals of British history. Let us delve into the details of this extraordinary day, exploring the unfolding events that marked the end of an era and the dawning of a new one. Elaborate preparations for the event of Queen Elizabeth II's demise were thorough. They were consistently reviewed and modernised. On the 8th of September, these plans were executed with precision. However, not every eventuality could be predicted. Balmoral Castle, despite its impressive neo-Gothic facade, offers a more intimate setting in contrast to the vastness of Buckingham Palace and Windsor Castle. This is one of the reasons the late Queen had held deep affection for it. The private living spaces and official chambers are in close proximity. Hence, on the morning of September the 8th, it's safe to assume that most individuals at Balmoral were well aware of the momentous unfolding of events as the Queen's life quietly waned. Just 2 days prior, with her signature smile in place, despite leaning on a walking stick, she had named her 15th and final British Prime Minister, Liz Truss. However, an announcement made shortly after 6 p.m. the following evening, indicating the Queen's postponement of a virtual Privy Council meeting on medical advice. This raised concerns. The imminent passing of a monarch is a significant constitutional affair, and Downing Street would have been promptly informed about her deteriorating health. Simon Case, the Cabinet Secretary, and Sir Edward Young, the Queen's private secretary, assumed crucial roles in liaising between the palace and Downing Street. During that evening, Case relayed the message to Truss that there existed a distinct possibility of the Queen's condition worsening rapidly. As Truss diligently worked on the energy statement, her inaugural and primary act as Prime Minister, she couldn't help but be conscious of the potential overshadowing, as sources suggest. For any personnel at Windsor who may have been uncertain about the gravity of the situation, the departure of the Queen's helicopter from Windsor Castle shortly before 7 a.m, transporting the Prince of Wales from Dumfries House in Ayrshire, where he was staying overnight, to his mother's bedside, would have undoubtedly caught their attention. Charles arrived at Balmoral just before 10:30 a.m, and the Duchess of Cornwall was driven from the nearby Birkhall to join him. Meanwhile, the Princess Royal, already in Scotland for her engagements, was already present. Within Downing Street, Case was unequivocal about the imminent arrival of distressing news, potentially within a matter of hours. Truss, still in the process of packing her belongings for the transition to Downing Street, had aides dispatched to her Greenwich residence to locate appropriate black attire, as detailed in the biography Out of the Blue. Truss was in the midst of a reshuffle when the palace initiated its pre-arranged cascade communications system to inform key government figures. One minister recounted entering their new department and being informed bluntly, "You have a meeting of 30 minutes. Officials used straightforward language, conveying their anticipation of the Queen's impending passing. The minister's immediate task was to receive a prompt briefing on the so-called London Bridge plans. Reflecting on the experience, the minister remarked, "It felt like a baptism of fire for me. I hadn't supported Liz, and I was expecting to remain on the backbenches, and suddenly I was not only grappling with changing departments and taking on a new role, but I was also instantly involved in one of the most high-profile operations globally." Signs of trouble reached the broader public in an unlikely setting, the House of Commons, where mentions of the Queen were rare. Truss had concluded her initial statements and was attentive to Sir Keir Starmer, Nadine Sawaley, and new Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, quietly entered the chamber and positioned himself between Kawase and Truss. He handed a note to the Prime Minister, then discreetly exited. Almost immediately, murmurs spread along MPs, sensing the gravity of the moment. Labour's deputy leader, Angela Rayner, received news next, Passing a note from outside the chamber, she gave it to the Shadow Chancellor Rachel Reeves, who looked visibly concerned as she read it. The note was straightforward, without any hidden references to London Bridge. It conveyed, "The Queen is unwell, and Keir needs to leave the chamber for an immediate briefing." Rayner strived to convey the urgency without causing undue disruption to Starmer's ongoing discourse, though she noticed Speaker Sir Lindsay Hoyle signalling that she should interrupt him. At 12:32 p.m, Buckingham Palace issued a statement. The Queen's medical team has expressed concern for Her Majesty's health and recommends she remains under medical supervision. The Queen is comfortable and currently at Balmoral. Hugh Edwards of the BBC, donning formal black attire, relayed the news to the general public. A scheduled call between Truss and French President Emmanuel Macron for the evening was cancelled. For family members of the Queen who were not already at Balmoral and unaware of the rapid decline, making the decision to gather presented a dilemma. Arriving too early could incite undue alarm, while arriving too late might mean missing the chance to bid farewell. When Buckingham Palace issued a statement at 12:50 p.m, indicating the departure of William, Andrew, Edward and Sophie for Scotland, the seriousness of the situation became starkly evident. Around 2 p.m, in a separate announcement, the Sussexes, who were residing at Frodmore Cottage during a visit to the UK for an awards ceremony, also revealed their intention to travel to Scotland. 2 hours later, as it became apparent that Kate would be staying at the Cambridges' new residence in Windsor, where their 3 children were still adapting to their new school, it seemed that plans for Meghan to accompany Harry had been abandoned. Considerable speculation arose regarding Harry's absence from the jet that departed RAF Northolt at 2:40 p.m, with his brother and uncles on board. There were indications that the flight might have been initially scheduled for 1:30 p.m. However, no explanation has been provided for the delay. In any case, Harry embarked on a separate journey, departing from Luton Airport on a private jet at approximately 5:30 p.m. He was still in transit when the announcement of the Queen's passing was officially made at 6:30 p.m. Subsequent revelations from the public release of her death certificate weeks later revealed that the Queen had passed away at 3:10 p.m. Dr. Douglas Glass, her official physician in Scotland, who also held GP clinics for Balmoral staff, declared her deceased. The cause of death was attributed to old age, and Dr. Glass disclosed that there had been concerns about the Queen's health for several months, noting, "It was anticipated, and we were well aware of what was to come." William and the other members of the royal family touched down at Aberdeen Airport at 3:50 p.m, a mere 40 minutes after the Queen's passing. Guided by William at the wheel, they made their way to Balmoral, arriving at 5:06 p.m, an hour and 25 minutes ahead of the public announcement. During this time, the formal process of disseminating the news was already in full swing. An internal palace team was actively reaching out to all individuals who required immediate notification. Number 10 Downing Street, Lambeth Palace, the Chief of the Defence Staff, Prime Ministers and High Commissioners of the other 14 countries where she held the position of Head of State, among others. A staff member affixes a notice regarding the passing of Queen Elizabeth II to the gates of Buckingham Palace in London on the 8th of September. Upon Harry's touchdown at Aberdeen Airport at 6:45 p.m, the global populace was already aware of the solemn news. In the aftermath, Buckingham Palace refuted assertions that Charles or his team had faced difficulties in reaching his younger son prior to the public announcement. The spokesperson for the newly crowned king emphasised, "The public was informed only after each family member had been duly notified, as was relayed during that period." Harry ultimately reached Balmoral by 7:52 p.m, and by this time Charles had issued a personal tribute expressing his sentiments for the departed monarch, a mother, grandmother and great-grandmother. Outside the premises of number 10 Downing Street, preparations were underway for a podium. Clad in the black attire sourced by her aides, Truss took to the podium at 7:07 p.m. She somberly remarked, "This signifies the conclusion of the second Elizabethan era. This day marked the culmination of an unquestionably historic chapter as well."